Herzlich willkommen zurück auf Schalke America. Yes, we are back. We're still on summer hiatus. We're taking it easy, relaxing. It's a long season, right? The last couple of seasons have been pretty long, but we are coming back, and we're back with this episode of Schalke history. Kind of gonna recap of where we've been with this series. Obviously, we started with the origins, the beginnings from 1904 to the 1919, 1920. Then we talked about the Roaring Twenties, right? And then we went to the Meister years, the 30s and 40s, the most prosperous time in our history. Moved over to the 40s and 50s. Yes, it's during World War II, the end of World War II, how things shaped after that, and then kind of a new beginning, winds of change, I guess, if you want to call it the 50s up to the 1960s. So we are here this time talking about the 60s and 70s. Let's get into it, right? In 1961, another scandal about illegal payments to players, tax evasion, and financial tricks when buying newcomers shook the club. What Schalke does, it's pretty customary in the industry, really, but only Schalke can really deliver a knife to their own self with what has gone and what transpired back in this time. This went into numerous court hearings.
You can't handle the
Schalke
truth.
officials assert that they would not have been able to keep a player without earnest money and bonuses. The verdict with the regional court only pronounced in 1964, so it took some time. It's comparatively mild how they thought it was going to go. Despite the numerous charges against Schalke, the defendants never enriched themselves personally, but only did everything for Schalke, and thus they were salvaged from the heavy burden, the big blows that they could have had. Luckily, the legal proceedings did not play a role in qualifying for the Bundesliga, which started in the summer of '63, which was before the verdict was actually read. Schalke, up to this point, they continued to play well, delivering a number of top four finishes in the years leading up to the 1963 formation of the Bundesliga, West Germany's new federal professional league. Those results earned them selection as one of 16 clubs admitted to the top flight league, which we all know now is the Bundesliga. Schalke was one of 9 clubs to become founding members of the new national league, thanks to its placement in the Premier League and its financial strength. Is one of the main reasons why they became one of the founding members. Now, at the start of the Bundesliga, Willi Kozlowski, he made Schalke football history. The 1958 champions scored the first goal in the Bundesliga against Stuttgart. Big goal. You thought a lot of good things would come here. That's a great way to start. One of our best players in history scores the first goal for the club in the Bundesliga. But the sporting successes in the new division are a long time coming. The first years in the Bundesliga were pretty difficult. In the 1964-65 season, the Knappen ended up in 16th and last place in the table, and were actually relegated. Yeah, we know that relegation, right? But the German Football Association, the DFB, they withdrew the license from Hertha Berlin due to black money payments and quickly increased the league to size of 18. That meant Schalke would be brought back up into the first division, so no relegation. So, as you would imagine, right from the start of the Bundesliga, the derbies between the regional rivals, Schalke, of course, us, and our rivals, the bitter rivals, Borussia Dortmund, were always fought with a special passion. It had from the beginning, and it still does to this very day. But in the 60s, a match in particular, in September 6, 1969, this is going to hold a special place in the books of Schalke and Dortmund, probably. It is a date that Friedel Rausch will never forget. This is an interesting story here. The Schalke defender had a reputation for being especially tough and never shirking to a fight. He's always willing to fight, right? But even he was taken by surprise with a shocking Dortmund foul on him after his team had taken the lead. So all hell broke loose when Hansi Perkner shot the Royal Blues into the lead at Dortmund's sold-out Rote Erde Stadium. So with no fences on the pitch surrounding, right, the fans stormed past security and onto the playing field. This is mind-boggling to think, this is happening even now with all security. But back then, there's nothing preventing the fans from getting into the crowd. Among all this chaos and fury and whatever you want to call it, the leash guards dogs became excited. There's dogs on the German Shepherds on the sidelines to patrol the crowds, and all these people coming to the pitch, they're gonna get rightly excited. And in the bustle of the crowd, the unthinkable happened. Rausch said he felt a sudden pain, and when he turned around, he saw a dog, a German Shepherd, had sunk his teeth firmly into his backside, excuse my French. He had broken free and had then jumped into the kerfuffle on the pitch and then just grabbed hold of his backside, his derriere. Obviously, quite surprised was Rausch. It's a German Shepherd affectionately called Rex. Bit pretty vigorously and handed Friedel Rausch a pretty painful and lasting memory, a 4 centimeter long scar that adorned his bottom for the rest of his life. Pretty vicious bite, if you ask me. As Rausch said, there were no substitutions back then, so I had to play through it. I got a bandage and a tetanus shot against the infection at halftime. And that was it. Then I continued to play. His Schalke teammate Gerhard Neuser, who was also attacked, but he stayed in the change room with a bite to the thigh. 2 players getting bit by the dogs, security dogs there. It's an unreal story. The memorable game ended up being 1-1, but the Deutsche Fußballbund, the German Football Association, they acted very quickly. From then on, dogs were only allowed at the stadium with a muzzle. Rausch would go on to say, I got a pain and suffering allowance from Dortmund of 300 marks, which is these days about 150 euros, which in those days were a lot of money. Not so much these days, but back then it was a lot of money. To make things even more memorable, right? That was just the first leg. The return leg would be in Gelsenkirchen. And Schalke, kind of show their sense of humor in all this thing. When the club boss Gunther Siebert brought in tame lions from the zoo in nearby Westerhold and let them run with security. So imagine that side, right? You're going to Dortmund where you got dogs marauding the sidelines with the security guards. You come to Gelsenkirchen, they got lions marauding the sidelines. Rausch, meanwhile, had to put up with months of mockery and jest. He was greeted with barky noises on the street and from opposing fans in the stadium. Of course, it's going to happen, right? What else are they going to do? But Rausch, he maintained a sense of humor through all of this. And he always had a quick response, too, when people asked him what happened. That was a dog. If the dog had bit him in the front as opposed to the back, right? And he says, then if the dog had bit me in the front, he wouldn't have had any teeth anymore. So anyway, Rausch understood the situation. He kept playing along with it, but anywhere he went, he was bitterly mocked by fans in the street and in the game. So it is what it is. What are you gonna do, right? That game aside, the 60s came and went, and at the end of the 60s, the things were looking pretty good for Schalke, looking better for Schalke, looking up. Schalke did lose the cup final against Bayern München in 1969. However, second place is enough to secure participation in the Cup Winners' Cup. Y'all remember that? Cup Winners' Cup? Because Bayern was actually seeded anyway as the reigning German champions. So anyway, it ended up becoming a successful trip to Europe for Schalke. They made it all the way to the semifinals against Manchester City. So that is the 1960s. Not too much success to talk about. Obviously, some more controversy. There's always seems to be controversy with Schalke, but through the ups and downs, it ended on a high. Some funny moments too, in the Riviera Derby when Rausch getting bit by a dog and Schalke bringing out lions in their leg against Dortmund. But overall, it ended on a good note, positive note. Schalke again becoming relevant in Europe now. So that takes us through from the 60s. Now we're gonna get into the 70s, 60s through the 70s. That'll be the next episode. But yeah, thanks for listening to Schalke America, being patient with us. Hopefully your summer has been going well. Mine has. I'm sure Jack's has as well. No football to be talking about at the moment. Lots of transfer talks. We'll get into that soon. But yeah, that'll wrap this one up. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done so already. Leave comments. Definitely be much appreciated. The podcast is about a month away. Season starts mid-August, so we'll be back just before then to preview the season. But yeah, we're gonna try to get a couple more videos in here. We got a lot to talk about. A huge off season that we need to get into at some point, but it won't be today. This is just about Schalke's history. So until the next podcast comes, or the next video, which will be more sooner than the podcast, we'll catch you then. Glück auf.